Today, Rocksteady devs did a live Q&A answering many questions about the upcoming Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, including revealing best builds, infinite levels, Easter eggs, endgame, gear, and more. To start with, we have a question: what was the funnest part of designing the squad members for the devs? They're very unique and fun, and I'm super excited to meet them. Hope you're all doing well behind the scenes. So while they didn't really answer that as much as they answered a very interesting question, which is character positioning on the battlefield, stating that all characters are going to be uniquely positioned, like Deadshot will be at the top of the map, Shark will be at the bottom, Harley is going to be in the middle. So that seems like a really good thing. You do not want the characters pretty much on top of each other, especially as you're traversing through the world. They also touched a little bit on squad personalities, stating that Deadshot is very straight to the point. He wants to get the job done as efficiently as possible. Harley doesn't take anything seriously. She's on her own path and doesn't want to be too fiddle anymore. Shark is happy to be part of the team and is very gullible, which the squad members play upon. And Boomerang doesn't really know what is going on. It doesn't want to risk his neck for anybody. All fitting of what they should be. Next, we have a really interesting question about build potential in the game. Question being, I've heard a few developers, Jacket mainly, mention about the build possibilities in the game. Could you guys elaborate more on the possibility of builds for the characters? They go on to answer, that is a most excellent question. Where to start? Well, first of all, when we designed the game, player choice and player freedom was one of our core design philosophies. We really want you to feel like you can make each character your own and build it to suit your playstyle. But if you take the leap and really play into the gear, you can find truly crazy powerful combinations. At launch, we're looking at hundreds of possible combinations and permutations for builds across our 4 characters, and this is something we're adding a lot to in post-launch. We're not supposed to talk about that today though, but I'm really excited for you all to see the cool stuff we got cooking. When it comes to build construction, we have quite a few elements we consider to be core parts. First and foremost, we have the gear and our 8 loadout slots. Then we have our afflictions, each developed by Poison Ivy using a DC character's power, Deep Freeze, Diablo Blaze, Livewire Bolt, and Venom Frenzy. Afflictions can be applied to your melee weapon and later on in the game to your grenades. Then we have each character's talent tree, which is the backbone of each character's playstyle. Harley is very acrobatic and loves explosions, and her talent tree reflects this. Deadshot is highly precise and proficient with his weapons, so you'll find a lot of critical hit talents and counter talents. Shark is our powerhouse character, so you'll find lots of ways of dominating enemies with his powerful melee strikes in his talent tree. Finally, Boomerang is our trickster and the most all-around character, but there's lots of talents that leverage his variable and fast traversal to quickly close the range to enemies and then quickly get back to his mid to long range. Then we have the character's traversal mechanics, plus their traversal attacks and suicide strikes, which all have their own flavor for each character. Then we have each character's weapon loadout. Each character has 3 weapon types that they are proficient with from the 6 weapon types: assault rifles, pistols, sniper rifles, shotguns, SMG, and heavy weapon, miniguns / LMGs. There's a long way to say that's a lot of depth for you to explore, especially in endgame, and lots of different ways to master the game and change the way you play based on how you customize your character. They go on to answer this question in more detail, giving away 2 of their best builds and some of the core mechanics behind it. First being the slow-mo crit build, using 2 items: the Great Suspender melee weapon, which launches enemies into the air in slow motion, paired with the slow and steady grenade that launches enemies into the air in slow motion. Then the Turkey Shoot firearm is a great finisher for this build since it does guaranteed crit hits to enemies in slow motion. They give other ways that you can enhance this build as well. They also allude to, which I'll get to in a couple of minutes, a really cool way that you can get all the top builds for this game very, very easily. But let's get a little bit more into the next build, and then we'll get back to that in a couple of minutes. Another favorite build in the studio is the Bang It Up build, as they've coined it. A grenade build that revolves around getting the bang grenade that does a crazy amount of damage, but you can only carry one. This is then paired with the propel grenade firearm, which drops a live grenade on critical hits, alongside the exploding grace traversal mod, which drops a live grenade when you do a skilled landing. Then you can also pair it with the prison pinata melee weapon, which drops grenade ammo on shield harvesting kills. So, sounds like a pretty cool way to get a lot of grenades and a lot of explosions. Next, we have a question: is there a tier above Notorious? Now, they didn't take this in regards to difficulty, but they touch on that later in the interview. They took it in regards to gear. They state there's going to be 7 different rarities of gear: common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, notorious, and infamy sets. The higher the set, the more power you'll gain. Every legendary item in the game has a unique augment that changes the way you play, such as the cooler or sniper rifle that freezes on a critical hit, or the combo meal firearm, which gives you a max combo on a successful critical counter, or the bang grenade, which only lets you carry one but does 500% more damage for a huge explosion. They go on to say infamy sets are brutally powerful sets of gear themed around some of the most iconic and threatening villains in the DC universe. These gain unique effects the more pieces of a set that you have equipped, and are designed to synergize with legendary and notorious gear. So the more pieces of these sets that you get, the stronger the bonus is going to be. They say notorious gear are some of the rarest and, in their opinion, coolest items in the game, all themed after DC villains, both in how they look and gameplay effects. They completely change the way you play, often require you to build around them to get the most out of their unique power. They go on to say something very interesting, that they're not going to have gear score in the game. So what does this mean? It's actually twofold. One, if you get a legendary weapon early, you don't have to worry about the next time you level up finding a rare that does more damage, so you get to play with that legendary weapon. Two, for your endgame builds, it makes them much easier to complete, because you don't have to worry about that score on the weapon. It just is what it is. It's just the bonuses, so it's just one less thing to worry about if you're going for mid-max builds. Next, we have a question about the leveling system. Is there any plans past characters reaching their maximum level, like a prestige system or something like that down the line? We not only learn that there's going to be no real level cap, even though the characters have a maximum level of 30, we can gain infinite levels in squad talents. Now, these squad talent points go to all of our squad members regardless of their level. There is an infinite capability of gaining, so regardless of how long you play the game, you can always gain more power for your squad. We also learn that we get to freely respect our squad talent points, and we get to freely respect our regular talent points at any time. Well, they say at almost any time. Not sure what that means, but I'm good with at almost any time. They also say that each squad member level counts towards your total squad level, and the higher your squad level, the more squad talents are available. So for those that have multiple characters leveled up, you can gain additional squad levels really quickly. So that does sound pretty cool, especially for those that want to have all the characters built up. Before getting into the next question, which actually gives some information, I did skip over a couple of questions which I'm going to give the highlights on. One question being balancing in the game, where it was a pretty basic question, where the devs state how Shark is more low to the ground because he's heavy and he's slower, Harley's faster, things like that. Just simple balancing question. Then they go on to state their best character, but they all just picked a different one. So it was pretty clear to see that it was a coordinated effort where they all just picked one. so every character was picked once. So now let's get into the next real question that actually provides information for the game. Question being, will there be free roam? Will there be collectibles for you after you've completed the game? So they answer, there will be free roam and there will be collectibles. There's also going to be Easter eggs as well, which is really cool. And they say there's going to be an abundance of them as well. They go on to say, Metropolis is a constantly shifting battlefield, and as your battle with Brainiac and the Justice League progresses, you can expect the city to change along with it, not only across the duration of the story, but post-launch also. They say this was very important to them. They wanted to create a city which players could experience, enjoy, learn all the best routes, though really not know them, because at any point in time, the path you previously thought was there may not be there next time. So apparently there's going to be constantly changing environments. So that is very interesting. Our next question leads to a very interesting answer. The question is it true that my squad of friends can select my character when I'm not playing? And if my squad takes my character with them, I can get mission loot and experience points. So they answer this question by saying there's going to be a feature called Social Squad, and anybody can take anybody's character with them. So if you got a favorite streamer, you can go take their character and put it in your squad. You can go on the world leaderboards and take the people that have the best scores in the game, in the world, put their character on your squad. So that is really cool. And if your character is selected to be in somebody else's squad and they gain XP, you're not even playing, right? But your character will gain XP and part of the loot. So you can have any character in the world from anybody playing the game. And if you're one of those people whose character is selected, then you will get a portion of the rewards while not even playing the game. So that is a very interesting feature. Seen it in Dragon's Dogma. Used to get complimented thanks all the time for having my pawn play with them. And it was a really cool system. And it's really interesting to see another game implement it. Our last question is one I know a lot of you want answered. What is Endgame going to be like? They say, after you've completed the main story, Endgame is a huge, constantly evolving and challenging experience for you to put your skills to the test. Our core philosophy for Endgame was, essentially, mastery. Mastery of your character, traversal, talents, enemy types, mission mechanics, and of course, your choice of build. And as the difficulty increases, you'll have to find new builds to overcome the challenge. That's why we have 3 distinct tiers of infamy sets in Endgame, all themed around an iconic DC character. For launch, the character is Bane, and his infamy sets are all themed around different ways of dominating your enemies and harnessing the chaos around you. We have a somewhat chaotic game with a constantly changing battlefield with lots of things going on. The game is frantic and fast-paced, and we've purposely made it so it feels like the squad is always surrounded and in the middle of chaos. And the mastery of the game comes from you harnessing that chaos and using it as one of your strengths, turning the very thing Brainiac is throwing at you right back at him. They go on to say there will be several types of missions, one being the Snapper Incursion mission, where the poor squad is sent into Brainiac's domain under the protection of a very fickle Prometheum shield that protects you from the Skull Ship's tentacles, as well as the full force of Brainiac's army. The squad has to fight their way through Brainiac's forces, often with the help of the support squad, to make it back to Metropolis. But once the mission is completed, the Prometheum shield goes down, and the squad has to leg it. They also let us know about another mission called Killing Time, where the squad is battling an incredibly frantic horde of Brainiac's enemies, and they have to keep killing enemies to fuel the Promethean shield, because once it goes down, there is no hiding from the Skull Ship's tentacles. They also say as the difficulty levels go up, so do the rewards. and we have some quite frankly insane infamy sets and notorious items that are earned from the highest tiers of endgame. That, paired with the global leaderboards for solo, 2-player, 3-player, and 4-player groups, mean there's plenty of friendly competition to go around. And if you want some tips on how to build your character, the leaderboards will be a good place to scout around. As I mentioned before, that is a really cool feature, how you can actually see the build of the people that are doing the best in the game, like in the world. But that does conclude the interview. If you liked the video, leave a like, comment, share. It helps others find the video. I hope this helped.